And we're live on the loading screen. What's going on, everyone? Make sure you come on in, say what up. We're live today with Casey from Fit Food Fresh. Say hi, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. So they can't see you yet, but everyone's gonna start getting their notifications.
Well, could you
And
let them know I waved?
yeah, you waved. Yeah,
It's
I
just
saw it
polite.
though. I saw it though. I liked it. All right, we got good audio. Make sure everyone, when you come in through the door, say what up and let me know if you can hear me and if we're both coming through loud and clear. Testing. All right. I think someone's. How we doing, fam? How we doing? H58. Papa Swolio's ready to get nasty with Casey. PG rated nasty. There we go. We can hear everything okay. We're good. All right. Make sure this is going to be a big one, fam. This is going to be a big one. This is a wonderful interview. It's a good friend of mine, and we're going to be talking food, nutrition, but really time management and perspective. And one of the major things that, well, you know what? I'm going to save that. This little breadcrumb. We got a great live interview today, so hit the share button, drop some comments. Good day, JC, Kai, Michael. All right, here we go. Let's get the party started. Daily Swole, episode 8, in 3, 2, 1.
The sun is shining,
Intro
the
time.
birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Test. Testing. Testicles. Ball sack. Casey's ball sack. What's going on, bro? We are live for episode 858 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular swolecast, beercast, broadcast, gangcast, mancast, pimpcast, and sleazecast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex. Casey and I flex our biceps, and I thought that today would be a wonderful day to bring a very rare mythical beast, a meal prep unicorn, onto the show. So I will let Casey introduce himself, and we'll start from there. He has a meal prep company, which is super freaking cool, especially because we always talk about nutrition. We're always talking about the importance of nutrition, the importance of eating the right foods, but not only that, but being consistent. So, Casey, I'll give the floor to you. Take it away and tell everyone what they need to know about you and why you're on the Daily Swole today, my man.
Well, first, hello to Swole Nation. Thank you for having me on. I know we've been trying to set this up for well over a year now, I believe. So we finally got it happening. But yeah, my name's Casey Cochran. I'm one of the founders of Fit Food Fresh. As mentioned by our lovely host, we do meal preps. We are meal prep unicorns. We are the highest rated in the state right now on Yelp, and we just love killing it.
So, what do you mean by highest rated? So, if someone goes to
Yelp.
if someone goes to Yelp, they're gonna see what? Because I used Yelp I used to use Yelp for restaurants. Like when I used to go out to eat, I don't really go out to eat anymore, and I'm sure that you're the same way. But for someone that doesn't go out to eat, like what do normally people use Yelp for? Like aside from that, is that just mainly like a food thing?
It started off that way. That's what I always knew it to be. I've recently, like literally within the last, I think, year, I noticed that accidentally I started seeing that there's AC guys on there. We get some tradesmen out of there. So there's gyms on there. So basically, almost anything that you would go into retail-wise or any kind of service, I guess they're trying to compete with Angie's List as well. But definitely they're known for their restaurant reviews. Now, obviously, they have meal plans, meal prep, all sorts of different companies. 5-star is obviously the highest rating that you'd be able to get, and we are 5-star. We've got 108 reviews now.
So all of them, like across the board, are all 5?
The the average, it's a 5-star average. We just recently actually got a 4-star by someone. It's so funny because the 4-star reviews,
Boo.
right? This guy literally said in his 4-star review that we're amazing, but he basically said something like nobody gets a 5-star, or like 5-star.
Oh.
But he had no complaints. He's like, he even said twice like the rice was awesome, but I love it either way. We hope to at least get some
but
critique that we can
but the
pick at.
rice, was so fucking good. It was so good.
Yeah, I would call him and be like, come on, man, but the rice. But
Oh,
you know,
jeez.
it
There's
doesn't knock our standing though. We're still solid 5 stars.
there's always that one teacher that never gives out an A plus. She never gives out like
Yeah.
never gives out an A, or never gives out that plus, as if like they keep it in their back pocket, like, you know, dangling, like, I'm better than you. I don't have to give you 5 stars. I have I don't know if you noticed that. Did you notice how Facebook got rid of their reviews? Did you notice
did.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually curious as to your thoughts on that, because I just recently realized that, because I started getting review notifications, but it was recommended. It wasn't a review. It wasn't something like, why am I not getting stars anymore? And then I got a little alert saying, hey, we updated our new thing. And like, can you get not recommended as well? Or is it just only for the positive things? I feel like that's kind of like the fat acceptance movement is like,
Like a
is like,
consolation prize.
yeah, it's like, it's like,
Nice to say.
right. Like if you don't, if you don't have anything nice to say, like either you get recommended or you don't. I don't know if you can like does not recommend. I've never seen that. I don't know if that's possible.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm sure they got rid of it because, like, we always point people to Yelp just because it's very easy to get 5 stars on, like, Google has reviews, Facebook has reviews. The only thing you have to do is start an email, start an account, and you put a review up. Yelp actually has an algorithm where it's going to look at how old your account is, how much activity your account has. So if I were to just go up and if I were to create an account today or this week and knock out a review really quick for my buddy's restaurant,
Mhm.
Yelp's going to look at that and knock it down until it really sees that it's still seasoned account, that I'm going through, actively participating, that my opinion matters, and it's not just one pissed off person or one, you know, family member who's just setting the account up to do that. Facebook, inherently like that, you see all sorts of companies with 5 stars in their Facebook and Google ratings, and then you go to Yelp, they can't get, and they're significantly lower. So I see why they did that. Maybe it's also with the whole Russian thing, just to kind of be less, I guess, misleading.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's something they're always working out.
Yeah. I had issues with the Facebook thing. I mean, it's good when you have good reviews. It's awesome. When you don't, obviously it reflects poorly. But mine are like 4 point, or they were 4.9 before they changed it. But you would always get that one person who, like, just literally goes onto your page and just gives you 1 star, doesn't say a comment, doesn't say anything, and just like wants to be hateful, or sees one video where I called someone fat and be like, I don't think this person says things nicely. And, you know, it's all out of context, which is fine if you have an opinion. But I don't know. I think also when you give people too many options, there's also confusion. It's like, do you like it or not? Well, 2 stars. Well, 3. Well, 4. I don't know. I mean, it feels good when you have 5, if you have 5 options. But if you're getting 2s and 3s, it can reflect pretty badly. I just feel like it kind of takes the balls out of it. I don't know. I feel like there's no more. It's got no more clout, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, I remember when we first started our Facebook account, there was it was like some Middle Eastern country, for some reason they started engaging with our account, and some of them gave us some 5 stars out of nowhere, and we're like, maybe we sound like, there actually is, I think in Israel or something, a Fit Food Fresh, so maybe that's what it was. I've seen them now on Instagram. So same name, completely different country, obviously, but someone gave us some 1-star reviews, and like I tried to communicate with them and to say, like, we're not whoever you think it is. It just stayed up there, and we got frustrated, but at the end of the day, you just gotta outrun them with those 5 stars.
Yeah. Focus on yourself, and then the chips will fall where they may.
Yeah, I like getting the critiques. That's what we're big on. I think that's what's really set us apart, is we kind of built this from a member's perspective. And Steven and I, my co-founder, we both have this kind of mentality where, like, I want to know what's wrong. Tell me my flaws right now. Let's like hash it out. Let's have an awkward conversation, because then I can move on and make everything better. The reviews are great. I think, as a reflection of our relentlessness at badgering our members for feedback, and that's something that, like, it's harder to do on a large format. I know you probably get a lot more one-on-one with your members, right? You pick their brain and as far as how you want to steer the ship,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think. I mean, yeah, member feedback, sure.
Yeah, that's the most valuable thing. That's what frustrates me a lot of times is by the time if you don't get the feedback before it's a review, it's normally not something that you can salvage afterwards, because if they're going to be hyperbolic and give you 1 star, their ego is not going to let them, climb back down from that position.
Yeah.
So you got to catch it before it gets up there.
Yeah, for sure. So
We do have some on Yelp that I love pointing out that were 1 star reviews. They had, a lot of times it's someone who just started us and we happen to mess up. They don't know how awesome we are. They've been on for months. We'll get a 1 star review, and there's some we've turned into 5 stars. And, I love showing those because it shows that, it's legit. We care.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat 1 star person like the 5 star person. I am all ears. Tell me what I can do better.
It's got to be a hard thing. I remember dealing with Yelp reviews before. When you get a bad one, like, you just can't get them removed. I don't know if they changed that, but it's like, if it's there for a reason, and they will not remove a bad review. I guess, like, I'm assuming the person can change it themselves, like, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you have to climb their ego back down off that position. It's hard.
Yeah.
We got 2 removed successfully, and one of them was the wrong company. One of them was legitimately, obviously, the owner of a competitive company. It had his first name, first initial of his last name, didn't bother changing him. His name was Eric with a K, which is a unique way to spell it. Had a picture of his dog as the icon. And I was able to send it to Yelp, and I was like, here's their company, here's a picture of him, here's his name, here's his dog, company website. And they're like, okay, that's good evidence.
That's funny
But
as hell.
other than that, you can't get it taken down. It's a bummer when it happens, but like I said, you gotta outrun them with those good experiences.
So what got you into doing this? And I think it's a very interesting question from anyone who's watching that's a personal trainer, anyone who starts their own business. I mean, there's one question where you actually start, but for me, when I started doing the podcast, obviously we met in the gym, and I was training at the time, and fitness I could have easily been like, it was saturated. I can't imagine how saturated not just the nutrition market, but the food delivery service in competition and what was out there. So what got you and Steven to actually want to do, literally undertake this, because it's a massive, just with distribution, with the physical prep, it's actually food. I mean, it's a huge undertaking. It's not just me deciding to put content. I mean, there are different challenges and different in their own right, but what got you into meal delivery, meal prep and meal delivery specifically?
The short answer is nobody was doing it right. We were both on meal plans at the time. We aren't from the food background. We're not from the fitness background. We're not chefs. We're not trainers or any of that. That's the typical owner or founder of these companies. They're either chefs or trainers a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
We were customers, and the customer service sucked on everybody. We bounced around. The food was small portions. They were trying to diet people, and of course you're losing weight, you're being starved, but you're probably cheating between meals. I know I was. Wasn't keeping me satiated. It was repetitive food. The billing, it was just problems. And you find one that had this and this going right, and they had this missing, and then but there's no one who had anything. And I'm a pretty tolerant guy. I was patient with them, but we actually started talking. I saw a bag that I was familiar with, and I was like, I was on with them 6 months ago. I was thinking about going back to them. Are they any better? Because I've been to 3 other companies, and no one's doing it any better. And he's like, no, I was thinking about leaving. So a little bit of reluctance on my part. Steven was a little bit more gung-ho, but I was, not wanting to get in the food industry. What do I know about food other than eating it? But we got into it basically out of that necessity, just like you. I mean, your industry, like you said, very saturated, but you saw an absence of the way you want it delivered, the way you wanted the content, directed, and that's what you sought out to provide. And we're not for everybody. We try to, make everybody like us and be awesome, but we understand we're not for everybody. We're not the cheapest. We don't want to be. We'd rather be the most expensive. There's a lot of restaurants out there, but it won't stop anybody from opening another one. So that's the way we looked at it. There's a lot of eaters out there. Some people, the way we do it, it'll jive with them and really resonate. And,
it's interesting because people have to eat. So I mean, right off the bat, so it's like people have to eat. And what you mentioned, I saw you mentioned one time, I think it was on, I don't know if it was on Instagram or when we were talking, but one of the most important things you can save for someone is time. And if meal prep isn't one of like the biggest time drains potentially for someone, whether they're getting ready for, I mean, if you're a bodybuilder, I'm not trying to bulk like I used to, but we're talking, you're putting trays of food in the oven, and the meal prep for the week. Sometimes people just use a Sunday and they do it all day long, making every single meal. When you start averaging out, because you said you don't want to be the cheapest, you want to be the best, which is obviously a great goal and aspiration to have, is just to make the best product possible. But just the amount of time you're saving, like if you call time money, well, you're saving tons of money by opening up your time to make more money and to be more productive. So like, what kind of person generally comes to your company? Like, what do you find like is a nice like little medium or middle ground where like this is our sweet spot, our ideal? Or I know you don't necessarily cater to one specific niche, but what do you find you attract in terms of your customer base?
I would say it's definitely the professional. There's an article I read on LinkedIn a while ago, and I've been regurgitating it. And one of the cool facts is, like you're mentioning, time. This article says that the average American spends 9 hours a week buying or preparing, a combination of buying and preparing food. So like you said, either prepping, running to Whole Foods, waiting in line to have someone else fork it out to you. But 9 hours a week, that's an entire workday. So it's a number that people don't think about because it's a small decision here and there, just like the financial expense of it. Chipotle at $8 in my head seems cheaper than the meal plan, but really it's my time going to Chipotle. Then I also get a soda with it. Then I get the chips with it. So even the financial outlay is actually more than what I'm thinking in my head. But as far as time, you monetize that. Our best members, I always say, are attorneys, because they're already thinking about their hour at a dollar rate. So it's easy. If I tell them I'm saving them, 9 hours a week, they're, kissing my feet. But our main client is, I would say, just a working professional. A lot of people think that it's for, gym nuts and people who are trying to do fitness competition. We're not as high of a priority for people who are doing competing. Their time is invested in working out, so spending a Sunday prepping isn't that big of a deal for them, because that's already a big part of their life.
Yeah.
Mom who's trying to also make it to karate and ballet and finish the report at work and get shopping done on the weekend, that's who our real member is. It's the working professional who's got 24 hours in a day like the rest of us, and they want to get more out of it. That's our member.
Yeah, I like that take on the hourly, with people that are already aware or that make an hourly wage or get paid, a premium for an hour, is definitely going to, be analyzing every time spent doing something else. And I do agree with you that bodybuilders are people that are hardcore into fitness. It's not good. Like they want to do it themselves. Like they want to have control. They want to know. They're weighing down. They're changing things on the fly. They know exactly what they need to eat. They're having freaking white rice, plain, nothing on it. And like they don't need to spend, or they probably don't see the need to spend money on having someone just make the plain, bland, simple stuff that they already do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's painful for them. With us, I mean, we're delivering not only the convenience, but it's also the quality of the ingredients and the flavor. The bodybuilding guy doesn't care. He's looking at his fuel. He wants to get those macros in.
Right.
So he's not appreciating that as much. But like you said, it's all based on the priorities. Ironically enough, while we're talking about not having time, one of our assistants' jobs, especially for me because I'm such a needy child, she not only already in a building full of food, delicious food. I'm so bad at making time to eat. Part of her job is not just picking meals, but she picks one, warms it up for me, puts it on my desk, which she just did, and then she guilt trips me into eating.
All right, so wait, no, bring that back. Show everyone.
I'm my own client.
Hold it higher. Hold it like by your face more, because I have to cut off the bottom. There we go.
This
All right,
is
so what is that? That looks like
stuffed ground. It's basically stuffed peppers. It's got some ground turkey stuffed in it. Got a little bit of cheese on that, and we've got some rice and beans. This is actually what the kitchen is eating today, so it doesn't have a label on it, so I couldn't tell you the macros, but I'll save that for a little bit. But that's awesome. I love our ground chicken. We've got a bolognese with ground turkey. I mean, We ground everything in house. We even make our own ketchup in house. So it's delicious food. It's very tempting, but I just never walk away from my desk.
But that, why would you? If you literally have just like food delivery, you have your computer, you have everything, you just don't have a.
Make sure she guilt trips me into it. A lot of people don't have these luxuries of devices like this, but at least you got fit food fresh.
You need a hose and a funnel that you can just urinate in. Just like take it out and just kind of like. Are you thinking about it, or you do? You've done it.
I noticed you got that red bucket in the background. I was going to ask if that's what
There's actually white rice in there. Believe it or not, you can see that there's white rice for forearm training. You could use sand too, but sand tends to get like stinky and stuff.
Was I doing my salmon shakes when we were working out?
Your salmon shakes?
Yeah, so
Jesus.
Chewing is such a waste of time and calories. I'm sure you'd agree.
I agree. That's why vegetables. That's why I think vegetables aren't for humans in many ways.
Just throw them all in a blender. Warm it up first. Don't be a barbarian, but you just warm up a salmon meal. Throw in maybe rice or the veggies, whatever's in it, and add an equal amount in ounces of water. Blend it up. Chug it.
Are you doing that regularly?
I was doing it pretty regularly. My assistant was very disgusted by it because the amount of disgusting things that can grow on one of those that I leave under my desk is pretty putrid. But I was telling her, I was like, I might have to go back to him. She's like, no.
I wonder. Part of me thinks if you're blending your food and you don't give your body a chance to digest it, I feel like you're taking like a fundamental mechanism out of human evolution, or you're bypassing it and you're onto something. Because I used to blend. I ate raw beef liver. It's frozen, so all the bacteria is dead. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's a risk or it's a minimal risk. So then I cut it into little slivers, like little tabs, and I just swallow it because I don't like the taste of liver. I don't know a lot. I think most people don't prefer the taste of liver. We're not raised on it. And I just don't want to cook it, so I'll just swallow it raw and get all the nutrients. I don't know, that's what I do.
I looked at it as I was increasing the surface area, which would increase the rate of digestion, and I figured I was outsourcing the chewing, basically.
Outsourcing it to the Vitamix, to the blender. I love it. Well, your meal looked like it was. Your meal looked like a gourmet meal.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit aware you have different meal plans. What are the different? Do you have ones that are they all like that kind of, that need a French name, like, this is a mushroom bolognese with a homemade ketchup sauce?
We have such a cool, so our menu has like over 70 items, and it's evolved. Originally it was like 20 items when we first started, and then we just keep getting requests. So now we got snacks, desserts. I always tell people we've got breakfast to dessert, plant-based to paleo, quinoa to quesadilla. But within that, we've got healthy gourmet. So that one I always describe as those items will be something that you'd expect to see in a restaurant, but we just put our healthy kind of twist on that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have paleo and keto. Those are both self-explanatory, as is plant-based. Well, actually, plant-based is full vegan now. Then we have a cold menu, which is just salads, wraps, things that don't have to be reheated. We have the crazy clean menu, which I always tell people flat out, it's the most boring menu we have. All we do is add heat, so it's a grilled protein, steamed veggies, steamed rice. But that's good we sponsor UFC fighters, we sponsor a couple competitors, so when they're looking to make the scale happy, they go crazy clean. And then obviously breakfast, the snacks and desserts I mentioned, even a kids menu. But the menu, the stuff we have quesadillas on the favorites menu. That's another one I forgot. All these things that you wouldn't expect to be healthy, we do a healthy twist on it. The chicken parm is one that I love using as an example because everyone knows what chicken parm is. Everyone loves chicken parm. Mm-hmm. What we do is we're going to pan sear it instead of fry it. We're going to use panko instead of breading, so it's going to be lower on the glycemic index. We might put it over a bed of julienne vegetables or wheat pasta instead of white pasta. The marinara is, or pomodoro sauce, made in-house. Like I said, we even make our ketchup in-house from scratch. So us having control over everything and just making those little substitutions, your taste buds don't really notice the difference. It tastes just like the parm you'd normally get at your favorite Italian place, but your waistband and the scale will notice.
Yeah, that's
being healthy.
That's all right. So you're definitely, you have the options for all different all different like interests and goals. That crazy clean is kind of like where we were talking about a little bit before about like the bodybuilding type thing, but you have the gourmet kids. All right. How'd you, obviously you didn't start off with all these different menus. You didn't start off with all these things. Did you just have one option at the beginning? How many different, I guess, organizations or systems? I mean, of course, approximately, because I know, as someone who's kind of running the ship on my own thing, you can kind of change directions really quickly when you're small. I mean, I'm sure you would still consider yourself a small business at the same time you're growing, but when you're small, you can be like, no, we're going to go this direction. No, we're going to do things this way. Now that you have a consumer base, I'm sure like a real strong base and people that are giving you 5-star reviews and they're locked in. Like I would never go without Fit Food Fresh for my meals. You're less likely to, you're not going to turn the Titanic like on a dime. So you kind of have like your system figured out. How long did it take for you to fine tune the meals and to kind of build to this point? How long have you been open? How long have you guys been serving the area?
We're going into our, let's see, it'll be January will be 5 years, so about 4 3/4 or whatever, which is you'd include the 3/4 of year 3.
Yeah.
If you could count quarters, but yeah, it's evolved. Like I said, it started with 20 items. In our mindset coming from members, our priorities were making sure the food was awesome and it was something that we want to keep eating. Otherwise, I'm not going to eat it anymore. If I'm bored with it, it's not appetizing, I'm going to stop. Making sure it's convenient, and kind of making the whole thing from the member's perspective. So starting with the first 20, we had some healthy items. I'd say about 10 of them were very close to like a paleo, and then the other ones were just like a not so bad version of this, and we were having a caterer knock it out. And then through the different renditions, when did we really get it dialed in? Still feel like we're dialing it in, but I feel like for the most part, us bringing on our most recent chef, or our current chef, I should say, Fernando.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with us, it'll be 3 years. Actually, it's 3 years now, 3 years in September. So he wasn't with us for the first year and a half. We went through 14 chefs before him.
Damn.
Yeah. 14 chefs in a year and a half is a lot. I think 14 chefs in 8 months is what we figured out. But yeah, it was intense. Chefs, they're artists. It's a rough environment. They're, the more creative they are, the more crazy they are, and a little bit harder to deal with. And we had some amazing, talented guys that couldn't, work well with people who couldn't manage, but they were amazing at putting out food. And you have someone who had a strength here and a weakness here. Fernando has everything. He's like he's a very good leader. But he's cooked all over the world. He's worked for Burt Rappaport, who's a famous restaurateur down here in South Florida. He worked for him for 19 years, so he's opened up all sorts of really cool establishments, and he was exactly what we needed. He was the missing component for the menu, and now it's gone from Stephen and I writing the menu to Fernando's writing the menus now, so it's a mixture of our feedback, the feedback from members, and Fernando's creativity. I think that's where we really dialed it in. Everything else is just an evolution. Kids menu, throw it on. But the real soul, I would say, is when Fernando came on and helped us get that balance.
That takes a lot of load off your shoulders, you and Steven, to have someone like writing the menu that obviously is the food expert in terms of prep, in terms of knowing, I guess, I'm sure timing of cooking everything, like what goes well with what matches well with what's realistic, what's, what options you can do. Cause, I believe in a recent post, if you had water, you'd figure out a way to burn it.
Yeah,
I believe that's a quote, a direct Casey quote.
They don't leave me in the kitchen unsupervised. Everyone, it's funny because whenever someone meets us, they're like, all right, which one's the chef? And I always disclaimers like, you don't want me cooking. Yeah, when we were first doing it, we would have ideas for stuff, or the easiest was when you'd see something in a restaurant and you're like, oh, I'll do that. Oh, some creamed corn on a salmon. That was actually really good. That's really weird, and that's got to be healthy. But then we'd have ideas like, I remember there's this one, and it'd just be our idea. We'd put a menu out, get the order, and then give it to the chef back then to make. And I remember one time we did like a chicken and brie sandwich, or chicken and brie flatbread, and we were envisioning one thing, and we didn't really explain it to the chef who was making it at the time, and he came out with something completely different. We're like, okay, yeah, we need some more input on this. But yeah, it's definitely nice to be able to have that delegated to somebody who has the the care to make it the best, and is really going to dig down deep instead of just spit out some easy stuff that they can make. He makes a lot of hard stuff. He makes so much stuff. Everything's made from scratch. All of our sauces, all of our dressings. So whenever he's bringing something out, it increases the labor load a lot on some of these things because we have to make them from scratch and they're complex. But it's not a deterrent, and that's what's great is he's making his job harder, but he cares so much about the product that it's no brainer. We don't have to kick him or anything. He kicks himself.
It's the care that makes the difference. I mean, you can never, it's really hard to find someone that's ever going to support or to have as much invested. I mean, just, financially and emotionally in your idea, because obviously you and Steven, this is your baby. To bring someone in that's going to, like you said, make his job, in some cases harder or more challenging because that's what it takes to make the product better. That's just the personality, the kind of diamond in the rough type thing where you just don't find a lot of people, even in their own craft, even in their own business, let alone someone else's, someone that just takes, puts stock into what they do, whether it's, whether it's like a passion project or whether it's like what they do for their career. Not a lot of people are really engaged and like want to learn, want to grow, want to make it better.
Yeah.
One thing that we've been talking recently about on my podcast is exercise without exercising, like just being more active, doing more things, not just like a regimented training routine, but also in the sense of education. And I just want to touch upon that because I know you're a huge independent student in the sense that you never stop learning. And I keep trying to tell everyone to never stop learning, to keep on, keep an open mind. I've been really into philosophy and history in the last couple of years. And, what's your take on being open-minded as a business person, in contrast or in combination with being like your own person? Because obviously when you're Casey from Fit Food Fresh, not that you're a different person, but you're wearing a different hat. So how does like continuing education and like always be learning and, being hungry for more knowledge translate differently from being like your private life to your professional life?
What's funny is I used to have, this habit of, putting everything in hemispheres and being different. Now I'm realizing that it's probably put me at a disadvantage because I've been trying to grow, two different projects independently when really one affects the other. They're the same things, and like I'm also like a big fan of philosophy, and I think I think a lot of people are drawn to philosophy through like hardships and stuff. They're searching for a more like an answer or question, like maybe they have questions or something, but a lot of times it's through struggles. So with business, I feel like it's actually the same kind of lessons that I learned in business help my personal life. The same lessons I learned in my personal growth help business because I'm interacting with people. I'm having relationships on both sides of this. So I've realized that business kind of like turns the volume up. So you have those same problems, but it's like, it's not a $100 problem, it's a $10,000 problem. Or it's not like a one-on-one problem, it's you in an entire department that you have to like figure out like how you're going to express yourself and compose yourself and articulate and convey your thoughts. So it's kind of like put me through an accelerated course. So I feel like my personal life's definitely benefited from the stuff that I've had to learn through a lot of the conflicts and confrontations in business, and the way it makes you, kind of gain that perspective, see where the other person's coming from. I think a big skill to learn is like always try to make the first thought, like in a situation, like maybe I'm wrong here. Let's make sure I'm not wrong. Let me second guess everything that I believe in this situation. Do I need to know more information on this or whatever else? But always looking for what can I do. Like there's this book I've been going over and over, Extreme Ownership with Jacko Willink. He's got that podcast. That's what I think put him in fame. I think Tim Ferriss gave him a shout out and got him going. But that's all about find where your fault is.
Yeah.
Like as a leader, you have to, did you not tell them this? Did you not explain it the right way? Did you not give them a deadline? Were you unclear on this? If you did everything that you could do, then you hired the wrong person. You delegated to the wrong person. Either way, look at yourself first.
Take responsibility.
Yeah, but that's, both sides of life. When I'm trying to discuss something with my girlfriend or my employees, it comes down to the fact that everyone, for the most part, is on the same team trying to get the same things happening. Everyone can be happy. How are we going to make that happen? A lot of times communication's where it's messing up, and that's, philosophy and kind of perspective.
It's really, in most cases, communication is, if instead of just, it's hearing what is actually being said, but where a lot of communication I find breaks apart, it's because the feelings are what's behind the words is what people are trying to communicate. That's like the error in communication, is that a lot of people, it's not the words that are being said, it's that what they're trying to convey is not coming out in their words. People have a lot of issue putting their own feelings into words. So you have like breaks in communication all over the place. You have people hearing what they want to hear. You have people not really saying the words that they want to say or they should be saying. So then it's just like you're having this fake like surface conversation about something that isn't even the case. Case in point with like any kind of relationship, whether it's platonic or not, fights that are occurring over things that aren't even really the fundamental issue. But communication's huge. Taking personal responsibility. I find what's interesting, and I'm curious as to your take on it, because you have I don't want to say a different business. It's similar. It's health related. It's, because you have a lot of engagement, you have members, and you have a little community. Because for me, when it comes to philosophy, it's interesting how on a personal level, you might care to whatever level in terms of politics or social injustice and things that are, in the public media, and they come and go. I just did a video, I didn't post it yet, about the Nike thing and all these things that are just current events. And you have your own personal opinion, but then you put on your working, not that you're a different person, but like that whole like working hat. You can't have the same conversation, or you can, but there's more of a risk if you do it from business Casey as opposed to, personal Casey, especially when there's like this exposure with social media. So you'll post videos and you'll do content and I'll do the same thing. I think that's where a lot of people are getting screwed or fucking up, when they're getting fired or they say something wrong, is that they lose the connection between how they're supposed to portray themselves, or they forget who they are, or they're pretending to be two different people and they screw up and they become the same person in the wrong environment. I'm not sure if I explained myself properly, but a lot of people are getting exposed with social media, which I think is a good thing, because the people that are themselves on and off the field, so to speak, are going to be proven authentic because they are who they are transparently on all cases, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I always think it's going to be interesting and we're getting to that time now when we're going to start seeing candidates who were in college with Snapchat and Instagram and all those things.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. All that stuff's exposed.
A lot more transparency, and it's going to be a response to all the stuff that's been hidden. And I embrace it. Like you're saying, there's some stuff, like I shared my opinion. I might share my opinion on some stuff in my personal social media. The way I look at it from a business perspective is, as much as I want to address that, and maybe I'll make a change, but my current logic is I don't have the right to speak for everybody in my business. If, let's say Steven and I, we're 50-50 in this. If he were to have the opposite opinion and we were to both put up a post from the business that contradicted each other, like, it's better to just to not. I wanted to mention something with that, just to kind of say, like, because there's certain stuff that I wouldn't mind taking a hit for, certain rights that I believe in and certain opinions I have. But like I said, it's not my right to jeopardize the company if there was a fallout. It's not like, I don't think we would have had a fallout or anything, but it's just like, let me make the decision here. I might reevaluate it at some other point, but for now I'll keep my personal stuff there, and I'll be open and honest, and I'm happy to debate, and I'm happy to change my mind. I would love, based on the information I've experienced in my life, this is where I am. If you have some more that's going to change it, let's talk it out.
A lot of people don't have that perspective. They have I guess, whatever they were raised on, whatever doctrine, whether it's religion, whether it's any kind of, morality. But this is my approach. This is the way it is. This is what I think, and that's who I am. Like they bleed it over into their identity. like with who they are as a person. The more, and I guess, what was it, Socrates? A wise man knows he knows nothing. Was that Socrates? I think it was.
That's Linda Cochran. My mom used to say that to me since I was a kid. And every time I'd get smart, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I know everything. A wise man knows he has much to learn.
Yeah. I mean, the more you read and the more you learn, you're like, first off, I get more scared when I read history and I see the same things repeating themselves. I'm like, oh my God, history is literally the collective memory of human race. And if you remember back to, 10, 15 years ago, the mistakes you used to make, you're like, oh God, I would never do that again. And these are the things that people forget. Our collective memory is disappearing and people don't look at history and it's like, oh no, don't do that. Oh no, we did that. It was really bad. It really didn't work out for anyone, for like a lot of people that are not, like, don't do. So, but the more I learn, especially about nutrition, and I'm sure, I mean, I get some people asking questions about inflammatory foods, this and the other. We're not going to go too down that rabbit hole, but everyone's different. Like, have you had a lot of requests or have you had a lot of pushback in one way or the other with things that you all decide for your menu? I mean, obviously you're no stranger to the debates, vegan, carnivore, and then you have inflammatory foods and milk and dairy, and I'll go hard on a lot of these different topics. But my personal take, just to set this up for people that are new watching, for yourself and anyone else that doesn't know, like, if you find something that works for you, like, who am I to tell you that it doesn't work? Who am I to tell you that you drink a gallon of milk a day, you look great, your health checks out, you feel amazing? I don't think a lot of people have that situation, but if that's you, it's like, who am I? Like, you're wrong. And throw around some studies that are funded by, like, some other industry, like some anti-dairy council or something. Like, so, what are your thoughts, or what's your experience being in literally the food industry with people pushing back, asking questions, strange requests, just personal opinion? We'll just start there.
Dude, yeah.
Just gonna drop drop that bomb at your feet. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Let me know how you do. Peace out, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, that is a common thing, and it's hard because you want to keep an open mind to stuff, and I don't want to say you could have too much of an open mind, but
no,
it's hard to figure out. There's so many people with really compelling evidence that completely contradicts the last guy with really compelling evidence and reports and this, that, and the other. And I mean, even BCAAs, we've been discussing that, and I've got some people who are still like, no, BCAAs are fun. They're just saying that because of this. Like, I don't know who to believe. The plant-based thing, whether or not, was it not Forks Over Knives? What was the other documentary that came out? And it's basically saying that all
what the health?
Yeah, what the health? So
yeah, that was debunked, and like,
yeah, but that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Whatever they last saw on a magazine cover, or what Oprah said, or whatever documentary, and it's not my place to say, no, you're wrong. So we try to provide something for them if there's enough demand for it. But like I was saying earlier, the way we look at it is we focus on the 80%. There's going to be 20% of people who you'll never make happy. And, it frustrates us. We wish we could make everybody happy, but we can't adjust the menu like you were saying. We can't pivot that quickly based on one person's feedback. Once we get a substantial amount, then we start, turning it. We did keto because we were doing paleo. We were starting to hear about keto. And people were asking for it, and we're like, oh, well, okay, should we just, add like some avocados that they can order? Should we change the menu? And we decided to, add straight up keto menus. That was keto items to the menu. That's probably the most recent example. But it's kind of exhausting, but at the same time, it's what we have to do because people's tastes change. We have people who, they'll love one item forever, and then they just get tired of it. I'm the same way. It's an opinion thing. It's a service. Hospitality and service it's very temperamental and very subjective. So try to make the most amount of people happy. But the anti-inflammatory diet, honestly, I've heard you discuss it, and we've been restricted by. It's hard to explain, but our current website, the way we built it, it's restricting us from adding more categories. But that is with the new website coming out. Hopefully this week we'll be able to start beta testing it. That will have one of the things I want to add is anti-inflammatory items. I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting one. We're not hearing requests for it yet, but it's just like keto. Like I've got that spidey sense where I've seen enough about it. I think that the phones are going to start, having a say.
It's what's hard about the inflammatory is how do you test that? And when there's like inflammatory markers, people can get blood work done. You can do all these different tests. It's hard to really know from person to person. So I always talk about, that's why I like my approach with nutrition. I mean, obviously, like I said, you are not in the business of, we're going to necessarily, not that you're going to be unhealthy, but you're not in the business of being a nutritionist. You're going to provide people with the information to make their own decisions based on their needs, their preferences, their time, their X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, they want to do keto, you got stuff for them. You want to do vegan, you got stuff for them. My own approach is just, that's why I do the elimination. That's why I always promote the elimination diet. Cut all these foods out, all these commonly inflammatory foods. Doesn't mean it's wrong for you. And then see what's good for you. Learn your body, learn what works best for you. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm in no position to tell someone, eat 2 cups of this, eat 3 ounces of this. Hey, if you want to build, muscle, eat 2 of these. It just seemed really reckless. And a lot of trainers do that. A lot of people do that type of stuff with nutrition and just dictating, give people information. And you're not a nutritionist. You're not an expert. What books did you read? Where's your education? You know how to count and add calories. That doesn't give someone all the right foods. Like there's more to it than that, because we've been tracking these macros and these calories for decades, and we're more obese than ever. We're sicker than ever. So it's not just a matter of the number. It's what those calories are made of, where they're coming from, and what other things that we're still learning. That's the crazy shit, man. It's like we don't have all the answers, and you can find a study that proves and supports or disproves or creates doubt in anything. Not to mention all the studies that never gotten published, that they just swept under the rug because they didn't serve the specific need. I mean, I think another thing people don't realize about studies is that for every 100 studies that are published, there are probably 500 that don't get published.
Yeah.
Or more, or 1,000 that just never make it out to like the daylight. So it depends on who's funding it, who's paying for it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And like you mentioned before, a lot of the information, who's doing it, why are they doing it? Are they being funded by the soy industry? Are they being funded by the dairy industry?
Jeez. Yeah.
Our thing is like, anti-inflammatory stuff. We're going to do the blood tests for the blood type diet. Like those are just things that we'll put out there. If you want to get more specific, in that information, we'll provide some rabbit holes for you to dig into.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like I'm not going to sell you on either one of them. The test will be on the menu, and whatever other kind of buzzwords that we can accommodate, we try. Making an informed decision, obviously researching ourselves too, but it's a relentless thing, and the health industry is a business, so they need to sell magazines. There needs to be a new way to get a six-pack on every magazine cover.
Yeah.
Because they can't resell you the last one.
Well,
so
not on Cosmo. You don't have to worry about getting a 6-pack with Cosmo anymore. You just learn how to love yourself.
It's a institution. I'll have you know.
It's what?
Very reputable institution, that Cosmo.
Yeah. I won't expose you to that topic just on the spot. Anyway, but no, that's there's a lot of just shady shit that goes on behind the scenes, and if you start becoming someone who's like dictating this is why, then you start crossing the boundary between you're providing a service with you're providing ethics, or you're providing morality, you're providing philosophy, and you're like, well, there's a lot of sketchy stuff, man. When it comes to food, I'm really getting more curious about that, really like ancestral dieting, because when you think about, people always say you need a wide breadth of all these different types of foods and all this stuff. I mean, humans in history never, ever, 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 ever were exposed to a wide variety of foods. Like, you lived in one area, in one continent, in one place, in one fucking climate, and you were exposed to the same shit every single year. Now, that doesn't mean that it was the healthiest thing. That's where it splits. It's like, well, does that mean it's the best? It just means what happened I mean, it also means that's why we got here today. That's why we're having this conversation, is because people ate the certain way. But I think, like you said earlier too, you mentioned too many options and too many things, and you have too much of an open mind. I don't know where it stops. Like how many nutrients do you need to get from how many different sources? You see all these things online. You probably get the ads for these things like Huel and all these like vegetable drinks. They just blend every type of protein, everything, 5,000 nutrients in one gooping, poop looking shape. It's like, oh, cool. Let me just drink this sludge. It must be good for you. I bet someone over there has some Huel on their desk right now. You do? Or
I don't have any more because
I haven't tried it. I just mention it because I see the ad all the time.
No, I was on it because I was trying to do is probably after I watched What the Health, and I was just trying to find
vegan?
vegan stuff.
Yeah.
And I eat a decent amount of vegan stuff now, but I'd say about like 20%, 30% of my diet. But
have you ever tried going like full blown, like doing it like I'm gonna be vegan?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And like I feel like if I were to really push myself, I could do it, but I also want to be kind of in the members mindset where I want it to be painless. So like the vegan options I give Chef the positive feedback on it.
Yeah.
And, I always try, but I want to be able to get someone who's an omnivore to switch over, not feel the pain.
Yeah.
Have, macros there, but it's hard because with the proteins, a lot of time come in carbs with the vegan stuff.
Well, that's the thing. When you go vegan, I mean, there's some people that try to go keto vegan. It's like, that's just, you start limiting your options to the point where you're not eating any food. And I don't know, just when you have a certain way of eating,
I got to look that up.
That misses some major nutrients, like, like B vitamins you're missing from B12, you're not getting from meat. And it's like, well, is that really the best way to eat if you have to supplement? I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of diet, which means way of eating, which means cumulative like intake of your food if you're not. So, but then there's also the question, how much meat is too much meat? I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the carnivore diet and people doing that. What's interesting about that, I think we have one person in the private community that's doing it, but that's because she specifically has major autoimmune issues. And there have been a lot of like people coming out that they find when they have nasty autoimmune issues that it turns out they're allergic to pretty much everything. And the hardcore elimination diet is pretty much just meat. It's pretty much just like a carnivore diet. It's pretty much just an extreme elimination. And then feeding back things and trying and testing things, you see really what you're allergic to. So it's kind of like the elimination diet is kind of like a self body test. Your body resensitizes, reabsorbs antibodies. And then when you bring back, let's say, chips, and you haven't had chips in 6 months, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I feel bloated, I feel sluggish, my stomach hurts. Then you're like, oh, well, whatever's in these chips is not good for me. And from my standpoint, that creates a better framework, like a connection. Oh, these foods are bad for me, and I really feel it now. But when it comes to vegan, carnivore, those, I don't know, man. I don't know. I have a hard time justifying, giving up meat, especially with my organ meats and with just how good grass-fed beef tastes. I just love it too much.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I don't know anywhere near as much as you, obviously, on the subject. I go with a lot of stuff that seems like kind of makes sense to me, like common sense kind of stuff, like the blood type diet. I remember I did a test years ago. I did a blood test, and I think basically they told me to eat like salmon and no red meat and no corn, which I love popcorn. So stuff like that, and it kind of made sense because I think they said that my blood type was coming from, I've got Irish, and I guess they were tracking it back to like Norwegian or something kind of descent. So they're probably not eating a lot of cows up there, probably eating a lot more salmon. So that kind of makes sense, and I could see like the theory is if that's how our bodies were, our bodies adapted to eating that kind of nutrients, that's all we need. So the logic of that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But, like, there's benefits of kale, and I don't know if kale grows in Norway, or if maybe my body would still benefit from it, not having it. I don't know.
I go back and forth between, because I think where a lot of the science is going to come from is going to be with epigenetics and with really learning these different sequences that get turned on. And then, you ate some kale, so it turned on this gene sequence, which is now going to make you at higher risk for oxidation of X, Y, and Z that might lead to, it's that kind of research that will really find some stuff out, because you have people that eat all different kinds of ways. And you have people that treat their bodies in all different kinds of ways. And if we measure health on long life, all bets are off, man. Because you have a lot of people that live long lives and they look all jacked up. They eat bad, but they're very resilient. I have similar background. I have Irish, and I think I have like, you know, Russian and that kind of like area. But I know there are certain gene sequences that are said like you don't want to go necessarily keto. You might not react as well with that, and this, that, and the other. But the more you mentioned that I know more. I don't know, man. It's literally the more you learn or study or read, it's just the more you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's logical. You start to go back. I'm starting to go more away from the science, which it just seems like counterintuitive. You want to get more, you want to learn more about nutrition, get into the science, read the studies. The more I go into there, I'm like, you know what, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe I'm not really going to learn much more, because you have this one study that's really specific and really targeted on one thing. You're like, well, I still know nothing. I still have no information whatsoever that literally just showed that these people ate some food and they were kind of like the same, only this was a little bit up. It's like, okay, this might mean we, I love like the conclusion is like, this might mean we need more studies on the subject. Oh, no shit, thanks.
Or a bigger pool to test.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you were saying, it's so individualized that something that works great for you might be horrible.
Yeah. And these studies, it shows like if you really want to get a full nutrition study, I mean, I know you'll, you know, with the philosophy background and interest, you'll like this. And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, anytime you observe something, you're changing it. Yeah. So anytime you observe anything, it's different because of the reaction to your observation of that. Like it's just fundamentally not accurate. So we can't observe anything really without changing the situation, right? If you're doing something in a petri dish, well, that's still happening in a petri dish. How can we know that that's what's going to happen in an environment? So when you're doing a study, let's say you do a study on 500,000 people, and it's going to cost $1 billion, and like you're controlling everything you need to control for, like for meditation, yoga, like stress, environmental toxins, food, timing of consumption, exercise, genetics. I mean, how many different variables? Like it's absolutely out of the realm of logic. Not only that, but to control and to make sure it's like literally for a scientific purpose. What are you gonna? It's like the Truman Show. You're gonna keep people in a bubble, and then it's gonna be affected because people are trapped in like a building and only eating a certain way. And then that's why they try to throw these studies from prisons and stuff and psychiatric wards and things of that nature. They try to use those things as tests. There's studies that people do because it's obviously very confined and very regulated. But fundamentally, that's not how human beings like function. That's not necessarily. I don't know. It's weird. The more the scope that it has to be to actually prove something, I almost feel like we won't ever really like have an answer that will satisfy people. It's gonna be this debate going back and forth endlessly. Like nothing, unlike anything else that happens in human. I mean, we agree on everything as people, don't we? We all have the same beliefs.
Science is so exhausting because you keep on getting disproved and improved and debated. I mean, if you want it to be static, just create a religion.
That's the thing, right? I mean, you see how many religions there are. It's like, well, that's just what vegan and carnivore and this. It's always going to be like that. Once you realize that, it's like, oh, that's never going to change. All right, so I'm going to stop debating it. People have asked me I've gotten approached so many times on like, hey, man, why don't you go debate this person? I feel like debates are almost a waste of time. I don't know. I know some people like debating. I mean, why am I going to fight someone that's like so dug in? It sounds just counterintuitive, especially when I know I don't have the answer either. I think that's the issue, is when you think you have the answer, you start acting differently. If you try to lead people towards the information and let them figure things out, that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe just an interest in people. That's the fundamental from where we were discussing earlier, having an interest in learning, having an interest in and learning yourself more. If people are plugged more into their own health and taking care of their bodies, they will, they'll find out a lot of this stuff on their own.
And I think I think with like a lot of things, they have to have like those early wins. So they can't start with something that's too highbrow. You have to start with some basic stuff, like, you know, the little, like I always try to give people, especially when they first start either dieting or working out, give them the little easy tips. Like there was one I read, and I don't even know if they're up to date anymore, but 4 Hour Body, he mentioned that consuming 30 grams of protein in the first 30 minutes of waking up boosted your metabolism, and his father lost 17% more fat per month doing that little change. Like those little wins,
Yeah.
both in the results or just that knowledge base. Because now, like, okay, I know a little bit more about health and nutrition. Okay, I know this is good. I know
Yeah.
that's bad. I know how to cook an easy one of these. You know, those little cheats you start giving them, then they can get into maybe your studies. I don't know if anybody gets that deep.
I don't even get that deep anymore. I mean, all these, it just goes to show all these videos, right? Like the what the hell, all the documentaries are based on some of these studies. But then you add video, and then you add dramatic music and lighting and shadows and editing, and it's like, well, you can create any kind of opinion you want based on how you make the film. It doesn't make them right, doesn't make them wrong. But the simplicity is really like what you said. That's kind of like the elimination. It's not. I don't like to make things sound like they're easy, but they're simple. I think if you keep things simple and you cut out certain foods and you start with some basics, that's really important. It has to be something that you can, like you said, get a win, have some success with, handle, manage. So usually it's for me, it's like fitness first. Focus on getting on a better schedule, getting yourself up and active. Because usually once you exercise or start exercising, you start to want to make better food choices. You don't want to go exercise and then feed your body McDonald's or fast food. You want to actually refuel yourself properly. What do you think would be what's one of the biggest lessons that you learned since starting your business? A lot of people watching are entrepreneurial, or they have their own business, or I almost feel like starting your fitness journey for an individual is kind of like a little sub company. It's like you're starting a whole fitness, a little fitness business within your own life. Like, what would you say is something that you can advise someone on from your experience with kind of jumping into the deep end?
It sounds very, I guess, banal and not really revolutionary or anything, but really it's time is becoming more and more important to me. Steven just had a daughter, so that's kind of like forced even another level of time and seeing what I have to start creating in my patterns today to be who I want to be and be where I want to be in the future, so I can invest my time how I want to. You got to put the time in for the gym. You got to have your priorities. I don't see, people are asking me, oh, did you see this show? Did you see that show? Did you see that commercial? No, bro, I didn't. I was doing something. I'm just a lot more conscious with my time, and not just like work all the time. Because I've also been noticing, I'll work till 2 a.m., but those last 4 hours are probably about an hour's worth of work. I should have shut off at that time, use that time to rest and invest in myself. So you got to invest in your company, invest in your relationship, invest in yourself, invest in your health. It's got to be all over the place. If you're unbalanced, it's just not going to work out.
Once you do that, if you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your business, you're investing in your relationships, you don't have a lot of extra time. It really does take all your effort. I mean, working on yourself, working on myself has been a big component with meditation, with turning off, man. I mean, this wasn't built during the daylight hours. It's a lot of just fucking hammering away. Like, I mean, I was always, we're always like texting and messaging. I'll see you up at like 2 a.m. I'm like, yeah, I'm up too. And you like sometimes things just take time. But what I'm realizing now is that I always felt more accomplished when I was up till 6 a.m. and I finished a task. But I mean, on what kind of what cylinders was I running on to get to 6 a.m.? Like, you start getting delirious. I mean, I start having, what's interesting about those late night hours is I would have like some of my best ideas just before I would go to sleep. Do you find that too? Like, right, you're tuning off at like 5 a.m. and you're like in the shower, you're like, oh, that's it. It makes sense. And you go write it down. Like, I always find that when I'm up really late, right when I'm like turning everything off and I'm wiped out, is when I'll have like that breakthrough. But yeah, taking care of my own health has been a huge priority. I've been talking a lot about on my show, the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes, 5 minutes of rest. During the day, I'll do like 25 minutes. I'll set a timer, and then I'll do like 5 minutes of yoga and stretching. Then I'll come back and I'll set a timer for 25 minutes. So I kind of take like breaks periodically more, because I'll sit here and edit a video for 3 hours, or I'll do work, or I'll do and I'll just get lost in doing my stuff. But Yeah, investing in yourself, man. You invest in yourself and you focus on yourself, then you don't have time for other people's bullshit. I don't really watch anything anymore, just like you. I don't see commercials. I rarely see even content that I make fun of online. Like I barely scratch the surface. I don't really go in depth with research. It's much more fun just to,
Just enough to get a jab in.
yeah, just enough to get a jab and just enough like, hey, I can make fun of that. So I make fun of that. But I don't like go into depth in terms of like, research and really, the effort it takes for a real debate or something of that nature. But
How much would you say you're doing a day? I know you're putting out so much content. You're always learning. You've always got something to talk about. Like how many working hours do you think you do a day or a week? How do you?
I would say nowhere near what I think I do. I mean,
I'd say that's a safe bet for everybody.
yeah, hours of actual work, it's hard to say because I always feel like even when I'm not doing something, even if I'm at the gym, I'm doing content. Like when I'm at the gym, the workout that I'm doing, I'm uploading it to like my workout archive in Swolenormous X. I'm setting up the camera in the corner. I'm getting a clip that I'll use later. I'm doing an audio for the personal audio trainer, like so people can work out with me. I'll be doing an Instagram story in the middle of at the gym. So like what my stuff is really, I find it, I don't even bother trying to separate it in many cases, but it's a little bit harder that I found from what I've created just because it's always on. My brain's always on. It's like always making content. It never gets shut off. So it's kind of like intertwined with everything. But I am making more of a conscious effort at certain periods to separate myself from that, at least not necessarily from the person, but from the actual work aspect, like shutting it down, turning off the computer. Like, don't worry, man, it'll be there tomorrow. Like, everything will happen again tomorrow. Like people can wait or things can wait or not everything has to be done today. I've set a lot of standards for myself, in terms of time crunches. I used to do the show every day at 12. That was what I started off doing because I wanted to hold myself to that accountability, because if I didn't have a time, what if I skipped it? What if I didn't do it? I started off with a daily show, so I would have something and I would be doing it every single day, which turned out to be a huge sense of, place of consistency, because a lot of times I would make it by the skin of my teeth at 12 noon and I'd be like rushing getting things done, and then it just became progressively less realistic to do it at the same time every day. So I just kind of broadened my scope to doing it every day at some point. But holding yourself to those high standards can be great and can also be a curse, because you get addicted to those standards, you get addicted to that schedule in a good way, but at the same time you're answering to yourself. So when I guess what I'm trying to say is I had that realization recently that, oh, I'm in charge. Oh shit. It's almost like I created this being on top of me that was telling me what to do. Like, you have to do this at 12. Like, I was kind of like my own monkey on my shoulder, putting pressure on myself, which wasn't a bad thing. But when I realized, oh, I can, it's just me. Like, I can decide to do this later if I want to. Like, who's going to tell me? Like, no one. All right, so I'll do it later. Okay. So it's actually like relieved myself a lot of those extreme late nights or that mentality, if that makes sense. I'm sure you've gone through that. I'm sure everyone does.
And I guess maybe a better lesson would have been the fact that it's a constant process, because that allows you to be hard on yourself, always look for what you're doing wrong, but then also forgive yourself when you're not doing it the best way. But being like open to the fact that maybe 12 isn't the best. Maybe just because I said it was, maybe 12 isn't the best time for me to do this. Maybe being that consistent, as long as I get it done that day, maybe that's really the important thing. Like I'm just doing it to do it. I'm getting focused on the task and not the objective. And maybe that's the better lesson. Is
what's your take on, I guess, either discipline or passion, or let me reword this. What is your take on obsession? How would you define that, or a positive or a negative spin? Because I think you know where I'm going with that.
I would say it's a very powerful thing. It could be a great motivator, a great tool, but it always requires, you can't let it go blindly. It's like a dog. You got to keep on the leash and steer it a little bit. It's very hard to do stuff without it. It's so much easier to do stuff with it, but at the same time, like sounds like you're setting up. There's that double-edged sword where you get, those blinders on. It's like, no, this is what it has to be. This is what I have to focus on. This is it. Yeah. And that can be detrimental too.
Yeah, there's there's so much to be said for being obsessed. People are like, oh, you're just obsessed with training, because you get a lot of people out there that are changing their lives, and their friends, see them doing. They're not supportive, and they're like, oh, you're obsessed with this fitness stuff. You're obsessed with your food, and I think there's being obsessed with your food, and there's wanting to eat as healthy as you possibly can. There's being obsessed with fitness, and there's wanting to be as fit as you can. And there's also, your task with your business. And it's very easy to feel obsessed or to be considered obsessed. And it's very easy to sacrifice things that come in the way of that, because your business is your baby. And it's almost like you're the parent and you have to give it attention. Like, you can't just choose to feed your baby once in a while. Like, oh, I have some free time. I guess I'll feed my child. It's like, well, no, this kid has to eat, regularly. It has to be, you have to take care of it. And when you're in charge, it's a power. It's a responsibility, but it's weird because you have to police yourself, because you're the one that, the buck stops at you. You're the one that is to blame. You're the one that's responsible for the good, the bad, and for how you perceive it.
Yeah, being aware of and being in control of your priorities is really, someone's going to call you obsessed because you spend an hour a day in the gym, and I call them obsessed if they spend an hour a day watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Are you obsessed with Netflix? It's like, it's a subjective thing. I know it's a slippery slope, but like you were saying, the kid becomes a higher priority, so you find that time to feed it. You make that priority. You make the gym a priority. That's why you're hitting it, and someone else isn't. Subjectively, they've decided something else is their obsession or their priority, whether it's resting or flexing or whatever else, eating Cheetos.
I find the same thing with the word. I like playing with words because I think words have lost their meaning. I like the word selfish. I think the word selfish is underused. Curious as your opinion on that. I like telling people they need to be more selfish. They need to fucking worry about themselves more and other people less. It really comes down to that airplane. Take care of the person next to you. Make sure they have their mask on before you put yours on. I feel like that is lost in everywhere else. It's lost everywhere else. Like, people, it's looked at like when you're younger, don't be selfish, share this, give. Like, you're always taught to give at the expense of yourself, and then everyone's unhappy and blaming everyone else because they're not taking responsibility for their own well-being from the start. I don't know. I feel like at a base level, it's important to share, and it's important to teach kids how to share, but I think it's also important to instill other values that encourage someone to look out for their own well-being.
Yeah, the hardest thing that I would say is there's this book, Give and Take, and it was kind of about the difference between givers and people who are just selfish and just take, and it comes down to the fact that it's a balance. It's not. When I was in the fire academy, there was this speech that one of our instructors gave us that I think he got from some Harrison Ford movie, but I never looked it up. But it's something to the likes of, there is no all, there is no every, there is no never. There's no black, there's no white. Life is gray. So it's like being totally obsessed, bad thing. Having no passion or obsession at all, bad thing. Focusing too much on this, like, you have to find that sweet spot in the middle, and very much like we were saying before, it's subjective. It's what your balance is. Yeah,
because that middle road, and that's where it gets a little bit more gray and gritty, because you find, okay, it's almost like most people hear that as mediocrity. It's like, you want that middle road. It's like, you want that balance. Well, it's like, well, if you want, to excel, you can't be focusing on the middle road. But that's where I think the subjectivity comes in, because someone's balance might be putting, 3 times as much effort into their work as someone else, relative to like their free time. They don't need Netflix to unplug. Every time I have a free moment, I feel like if I watch Netflix, like I don't know. I almost, and maybe you can help me find some perspective. I find it very hard to unplug in terms of like not feeding my brain things. Like, I can't listen to, like, if I'm walking the dog, dude, I'm either live on Instagram, I'm doing a story, I'm doing some kind of a post, I'm doing some kind of a video, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm listening to an audiobook. Like, there has to be something going in. Otherwise, I'm just like, I'm losing half an hour walking the fucking dog, man. It's like
I'm the same way. Drives my girlfriend nuts. My girlfriend now is very tolerant, but like I'll fall asleep to podcasts or an audiobook, and I can't do that when I'm staying at her place. Like that's a no. Like she's all about learning, and she's the most in line with me that I've ever anybody I've ever dated in that aspect. But when it comes down to like mornings are a quiet time, nighttime's a quiet time. But other than that, I'm just like you. Like if I'm driving somewhere,
Yeah.
she wants to play music for a road trip. I'm like, let's bang out some audiobooks. I'll put that on like 1.5x speed or 2x speed, and just like now I'm banging out the book twice as fast. Like I'm
Yeah.
just constantly. It's a podcast. Blinkist is one of my favorite things. It's an app that has audiobook summaries. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Now I'm bang out the summary of a book in like 8 minutes, and then I could speed that up. So I'm saving even more time on that. But yeah, I'm the same way. It's constantly trying to put stuff in there.
I've heard of it. I don't think I haven't used it yet. I've been like listening to the whole freaking, all the books and everything, but I've read a lot about when people speed read. They just read like the first chapter, the first paragraph. They read through, like they read like headlines and then see what topics under there they find interesting and then dig into it more. Like, do you go on Blinkist and then, oh, I like this book, and then you read the whole thing? Or
Blinkist, yeah, I won't read it. I mean, I guess the one of the benefits is if you are the type of person who's going to read a book or whatever, it's great because it'll give you the whole summary without you having to get 5 chapters in to go, this isn't what I was expecting. Yeah. So you can dig deeper. I like it because it skims over. You get they do a great job of getting the concepts down. And I haven't read any of them yet. There's some of them that are in there that I read and then I re-listened to them in there just to refresh the principles. But what I love about audio, like I'll read a book. Like I'm reading a Dan Brown book now. Fiction, I read book at the end of the night or whatever. That's for more enjoyment. I'm not worried about getting everything out of every chapter. It's just for enjoyment. But when it comes down to getting information, I like audio because I can get it passively while I'm driving. I can re-listen to it. Like I've listened to some of Tim Ferriss's books probably over a dozen times. 4-Hour Work Week, I probably listened to over a dozen times because I could continually do it. Same thing with Eckhart Tolle and philosophy. Anything I want to learn and grow from, I like that ease of exposure. I can listen to that chapter 5 times in 5 different attitudes, 5 different kind of attention levels, and constantly get something out of it, Yeah,
I do that a lot when I'm working out. Sometimes I'll listen to like a history podcast. One of my favorites, I don't know if you've heard of it, Hardcore History.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talk about like just saving
sorts of like esoteric stuff that you're like, holy God.
Yeah, but just like when someone puts in months of like research and effort reading like and skimming 30, 40, 50 different books and puts it all into one thing, it's like, well, this makes history interesting. Now I'm like, oh, I'm getting the whole story. I don't have to read all those, because those, I can imagine those individual books just boring as hell. And like, I mean, it's really cool. I think I think audio is amazing, and that's one of the things with in Swole Enormous X. I do audio workouts where I'm literally recording my workouts, and people can plug in their headphones. They see the workout that I did, and I'm literally talking through. I'm swearing when I'm swearing. I'm, making fun of someone's form when I'm making fun of. It's like kind of like being in the gym, but the just the audio aspect. I always have my headphones in. I'm always listening to something. Yeah, it's just hard to turn off, man. It's hard to turn off. It's hard. Yeah.
I feel like, wasn't your mother a teacher?
No.
Oh.
No.
I thought she was. My mom.
A teacher of life. A teacher of life.
You're a teacher of life.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have so much easy access to so much information now. We almost have like an obligation to the prior generations who had to sit in like library stacks with dusty books to get this 20-year-old information. We're having it like seconds.
Yeah, the newest thing is right there. It's not just
you're dealing with it,
Yeah, it makes one of the things that I heard, and we're probably one of the last, I guess, generations I went through. I know a lot of people are going through the school system now. I don't even know what I would do if I had a kid. I'm like, I'm not indoctrinating my child with any of that, brainwashing gibberish. So for me, I look back on all those years spent just like in a class. I'm like, literally in history, all my years of history, I learned more. Like, you just go on a Hardcore History and listen to that series on World War I. You will learn so much about human psychology, warfare, tactics, philosophy. You just learn so much about the human species just from a few hours of listening to that, and it's entertaining. I'm like, wow, why did I spend all that time in like a world art survey class I probably spent $3,000 on with like loans and stuff in college, and all the things and all the time that you spend, like you can go literally, you want to learn something, spend time on YouTube. Everyone always asks me, how'd you learn how to do this stuff? Bro, like 2.5 years of how do I do that? Fuck. Google. How do I do that? Google. How do I do that? YouTube. How do I do that? Well, same thing, but Google. And I just, every single thing. Oh, what do I need for that? Well, how do I plug the microphone into this? Oh, you need one of those. Oh, what's that? Let me look it up. Let me research it, review. Like, and you just practice the techniques. And
the danger of academia is it teaches us to be fed information instead of going for it. Like, case in point, I don't know how many of your members know this, but before you started this, like, I remember speaking with you and you were like, yeah, I've got an Instagram account, I think. Maybe I shut it down. Like, you had nothing. You knew nothing. I respect so much. Not only have you been crazy consistent, but you got like a freaking studio with a bunch of crazy person wall writing in the background. You're like broadcasting to satellites and all sorts of different platforms at one time. Like,
yeah, we're all.
But that's all, like you said, it's all stuff that nobody taught you. Did anybody teach you any of this stuff, or you had to find out every
some 10-year-olds on YouTube taught me.
Yes.
So, dude, some kid, like, and I look at the video, and the video was from like 2013. I'm like, this 10-year-old was like 7 at the time of this filming, like literally telling me how to like edit this. Yeah, from everything from Photoshop to all that, and I still know nothing.
There's a famous quote I love, and it's the illiterate man of the 21st century will not be the man who doesn't know how to read or write. It'll be the man who doesn't know how to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think about is, we go back a couple hundred years. We were both Indians. Like, our grandfather could teach us the best way to string a bow, the best place to catch the salmon, the best way to dig this, or whatever else. Now, if you're getting older, which we all are, and you're not constantly putting new stuff in here, your value is decreasing. You don't have to be 70 to be worthless. You could be 40s and not know how to use your phone, and now you're becoming useless to society. All these things are out there too.
Imagine, like we had talked a long time ago about cryptocurrency and all that stuff, and the big bang with that, and that kind of like not fizzle, but okay, that was just like the hype and all that, but it's not going anywhere. But I don't know. But you talk to people about when you're staying up with the latest things, and when you have conversations with anyone else, and you just see like this blank stare or this lack of, and you're like, oh, so I'm okay, so that you don't know anything about this. I find that more and more, the more conversations I have, I realize there's two interesting things, at least, that are going on with humans in general. You have, and no joke, you have the Netflix, it's splitting. You have the Netflix people, and you have people, I mean, of course, there's like people that do absolutely jack shit, but then you have those like us that are literally, there's so much information. It's like, I want it all. Like, I want it. Like, you and I will probably be the first people that jump on like Elon Musk's like Neuralink and be like, yes, put the chip in my fucking head, make it easier. Like
I'm willing to risk it taking over my body and turning me into some kind of like acid complying zombie, because like you just said, like that's the first thing I thought. I was like, dude, I would remember everything too. That's what would be great. I'd know it all.
It's like, bro, I've been lifting my entire life to be a fucking robot. Like, I want, like just make it complete. It was an interesting concept saying that because you have a phone, literally because we're holding this makes us a cyborg. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's fucking fascinating. Just the thought of it. Like, yeah, if I want a memory, if I want a memory, I look in my phone memory. And this was on the Joe Rogan podcast, the one that Elon Musk was just on, which is great because he's such an eccentric person, but he's just smart. But he's just.
It was interesting because I listened to that, and so much of it seemed like he was struggling to dumb what he was trying to say down. He's like, if you he's like struggling.
Yeah, he's like, no, he's like no, those are. He's like, translate human. I think it's because. Yeah, and you can hear it. It's palpable because I didn't watch it. I listened to it. It's palpable how many thoughts he has in his head. That moment, I thought that was the most powerful part of the interview when like it was like a long pause and he's just like all the time. Like it doesn't turn off. Did you know, and I read about this, he had a surgery done when he was little on his ear because they thought he was hard of hearing because he was always like stare off into space. I think they thought he was like autistic or something, but he was always like, I'm surprised they never brought it up. I don't know if he's embarrassed about it, but I read this somewhere. I hope it's true, but he was like always like staring off and like being distracted because he has all these freaking thoughts since he was a kid. So I think they had some like inner ear surgery. They thought like, and it didn't change him at all. Like nothing changed because it's just the way his brain is. But I think it's just like him he's just having so many thoughts even during the interview. He's probably thinking about reinventing the table. He's like, this table has been like this for so long. We could make this such a better table if we just did this. He has so many things on the table. What if I did this? They can have, I don't know.
Smart table.
Yeah, a smart table that goes, oh, they already have those. You have those over there at your office. Yeah, man. I mean, people that just do nothing, they're filling themselves up with all this information. You have every movie you ever wanted at any time. I'm still marveling when I walk by like my living room. I see some DVD cases laying around. I'm like, oh my God, these used to be brand new, like recently. And now DVDs are just like Blu-ray, like they almost skipped over Blu-ray. We're like, yeah, Blu-ray, and no one even really cared because it went right to digital. So we just have everything we want for entertainment. Same thing with food. So you can just fill yourself up with food and entertainment, you know, fast food, fast stuff, blah, blah, and then, or you can fill it with positive information and then you're learning like a ton of shit all the time. But
Yeah,
there's so much.
Social media and the garbage information out there is very much like fast food. It's the convenient stuff. It's the stuff you see everywhere.
The headlines. It's the headlines.
Yeah, the headlines.
Yeah. It's almost like there's too much. So like when it comes back to the science, when it comes back to the nutrition, you have all these different articles, right? All this different research, all these different things in your face at the same time. In the past, it would take like, you have to wait for the journal to come out. You'd read it, you discuss it. You'd have a talk that someone gave and you'd go and see that and it would like slowly filter into society. And most people wouldn't have the first idea about anything with inflammation. It'd be like strictly a medical thing. All of a sudden you just blew the top off. Now, not only doctors, but every single person can read a scientific study at any time, even get updates on it probably while it's still going on. You know, it doesn't even have to get published. You just post it on freaking Instagram. It doesn't even have to make it to a journal. I'll make my own freaking journal. Here, it's on this site. And then what do I trust? What do I do? Who's this? Or did someone lie? Did someone doctor this? You're just getting every study all at once. And it's like, how do you even digest it? It's like sitting down and having a 15,000 calorie meal. You won't finish it. And to sift through and to make sense of it and then have a conversation with someone else that also is aware of everything that's out there. Like the more you learn, it goes back to that original quote. The more you learn, the more you realize there's just so much stuff we don't know. Have a conversation with one person about space and you're like, oh, we don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like we don't know anything really. Like we know about maybe 5% of the ocean floor. That's it. Everyone thinks we have such a good handle on what things are going on. It's like, no, we really don't know that many things. Like science, when it comes to nutrition, bringing it back to like the main topic, really, like we don't have conclusive evidence. We don't have conclusive anything. I don't know, cholesterol, all the new stuff about cholesterol, you know, things that raise cholesterol. Yeah, well, cholesterol is not the only marker that really is important for heart disease. Well, I don't know. It keeps on going.
And I think it goes back to, like you said, the information is so common now. Now it's going to kind of go back to what we were saying about, you know, transparency, credibility really through transparency. Now it's going to be, well, who am I getting this information from? What does Swole Enormous say? What does, you know, Ben Greenfield say? What does Tim Ferriss say? And who do I, you know, hold in the highest regard as far as who I'm going to listen to? Who, you know, do I trust more as a person? And, you know, who do I follow with this? Because like you were saying, it's not only is there a ton of it, but for every one that says left, the other one says right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think the trust is a huge part of it. You know, you with your members' transparency, myself, I love telling people when I don't know something. I love it. It makes me happy when I don't, when someone's like, ask me, I'm like, geez, I don't know. You know, it also doesn't mean I'm going to go run out and try to learn it. But if there's something I don't know, which there are many, it's important that people know that you don't know, or you don't have a direct answer or something you're going to answer or an opinion directly about that. Most people have a voice now, but that voice is an opinion. It's not a fact. And just because someone's saying something, it means that literally that a human being is saying something. It doesn't mean it's fact. It doesn't mean that it's the best answer. And if we're transparent about how we talk and how we are literally, every time we discuss something, we're voicing our opinions. Everything today on this podcast is an opinion of mine. Like, essentially, it's coming out of my mouth. What do I know? But we assume responsibility when we create a voice. So if I create a podcast, I know people are going to come here for information. So I'm going to give the information from my personal experience, from what I've seen, from what I understand, from what my perspective on common sense and approach is, and then people can formulate their own opinions. But you get a lot of that. You get a lot of the militant. You get a lot of the loud voices that kind of drown out all the common sense approach. I think if you have an open mind, it means exactly that. It means you are, I guess, vulnerable, as you should be as a human being, to being incorrect, especially when science is relatively new.
Yeah.
You know, it's relatively new, man. And the more you plug back into it, you realize, oh shit, it's been like 50 years where we really had like good telescopes and good microscopes and technology. Computers are 20 years old. Like, it's nothing. It's 20 years old. Like, when we were like, go back 10, 15 years and no iPhones, no, like, internet just kind of like bursted, was a bubble, and it was just like, you know, basic websites, HTML, you know, and when you text me on Skype, ASL, like most people won't even get that, like, ASL what? And everyone that's watching now or listening, the age, sex, language, when you go into a chat room, like back in the day.
Location.
What? Oh, location. I always say language. I always fuck that up. Age, sex, location. Yeah. Age, sex, location. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I still remember going online and having to type in manually one at a time if you wanted to see if someone was online. You had to type in their screen name on AOL and it would say, so-and-so is not online. You're like, damn, type in another one. It's like remembering someone's phone number. It's crazy, man. But yeah, learning, always adjusting, keeping an open mind, but being hungry for it. I mean, it's all there. Let's recap a little bit with those that don't know. This is just, if you're tuning in now, Casey from Fit Food Fresh. Where do you? I don't think we even discussed this part. Where do you serve your company? Where do you serve your food to? Because I know you expanded big time recently.
Yeah, we are now covering 4 counties in South Florida, from Martin, Palm Beach County, Broward, and Dade County.
That's huge. So all the way down to is Homestead count? Is that like
Homestead to Stewart?
So Homestead eats food too?
Yeah, they love it.
They love it. Do you have a lot of people down there? Do you have a lot of people down in Homestead?
We do, and that was a sketchy one because for those of you who don't know, we're out of Boca, so Homestead is a drive and a half, especially when you get into the
2.5 hours, like too easy? Easy too.
Yeah, easy 2 hours, I think. But now we've got a nice cluster of people out there, so it's more worth the drive. We got a pretty good density in all the counties now, so it's a stretch, but.
Any idea, any concept of going to the Keys, or is that just like, that's far?
I don't think we've got enough. I don't think it's dense enough. Like,
yeah.
We pick off like one guy on one island and be driving too far to make the deliveries happen.
Yeah.
I think we've been getting a lot of requests for Orlando. We've been getting some requests for Tampa, so we might expand that way.
That's probably a better method, because then you have like a new location, because Orlando, geez, you don't have to go far, anywhere near as far for the population density, especially with Tampa. And then you kind of get all the things, stragglers in between. You expand each one, and then you kind of get those bubbles reaching.
A little bit further north, a little bit further south. And
little Venn diagram going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. Well, nice. So why don't you right now? Where can they find your website? I didn't bring it up on the show at all. I don't want to f with the tech right now too much, but tell everyone where you're at.
Yeah, fitfoodfresh.com. You find us on Instagram, fitfoodfreshtastic, social media. The rest of them are all fitfoodfresh. But yeah, fitfoodfresh.com. Check us out. Check us out on Yelp. We are right now, I don't even like saying it because it's a long explanation. Right now, we're the 2nd highest rated in the nation, and I just want to hurry up and get our ratings above the other companies so I could just skip to the highest rated. But right now, we're the highest rated east of the Mississippi, definitely highest rated in Florida. But check us out. Our health reports are up there. All of our reviews are up there. We're all about transparency. We got no contracts, no commitments. We try to make it easy, and we're there for whatever you need. I
love it, man. The one thing that you can do to save yourself time and to save yourself stress is to have someone make your food for you. And that's why people like to go out. That's why people like to go out to eat, because they can go somewhere and someone else can do the work.
Yeah, chili sucks. It's just better than cooking and shopping.
Yeah, dude, I don't like to go out anywhere. I like to make my own food. I like to do it my way. I like to have it how I'm going to expect it, the same way in the same place. If food is a tool and it's something that you want to enjoy, but you want to have quality food and you want to have it conveniently. Convenience, man. You start saving people time and struggle and having to go to different places to figure shit out. Like you said, the time driving, the time waiting in line, the time going home, cooking, traffic, making the food, packaging it, the containers you have to buy, cleaning. And
you gotta look at it like this. If there was anything that you're gonna outsource, eliminate, automate, delegate, eliminate, whatever, I said eliminate twice, but it'd be the thing that either takes the most time out of your week, or the thing that you have to do the most often, the most redundant thing. Eating is both, because you're going to do that at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and like we mentioned before, 9 hours a week. That seems like the best thing to try to get somebody else to do, or find some other way to do it that doesn't suck your time, unless you don't care about your time. If you got an abundance of time, just looking to kill it, shopping and cooking, go for it.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
Some people do. Some the Netflix and chill society. So I know we got some people just listening from if you're. There we go. Sorry, someone just followed on Twitch, and then sometimes for some reason I get this little like gremlin running across the screen. It's this weird little like embedded thing when someone follows you on one of the platforms, and it kicks off my audio for some reason. I thought I turned that off. Yeah, sound's back. But dude, I'd love to do this again. I'd love to get into some more like just like conversation stuff. I mean, I really need to have that kind of. I need to have that cerebral connection with someone that is that's working at a high level, that's doing the thing and that's being successful and navigating the same waters. And I kind of like equate my journey, your journey, from what I've seen, and just people that are just starting with a nutrition plan, starting with a food company, starting with your fitness lifestyle, just starting something is a huge undertaking, and it's a huge challenge that you have to overcome. And just the fact that you've been doing this for 5 years plus just shows the success of it. It shows the sustainability, how it's grown just from like your team. It was just you and Steven, and then all of a sudden you get one person, then 2 people, then 5 people, and then you have like a team, and you have delivery, you're expanding, which just means, rising tides raise all ships. So hopefully your company, I know you inspire me. I know we've had these conversations before, but just the fact that, the more you're in it, when you're in the trenches, you realize how many of those little speed bumps, the things to overcome become less daunting because you just get used to overcoming them. And another challenge, like, oh, something went wrong today. Okay. Like it's Tuesday or it's Monday. Like it's another day. But it's just, it's definitely mutual respect. And I'd love to have you back on the show, man. And I really appreciate your time, dude.
Yeah, likewise, man. I appreciate being on the show, and I respect what you've done even more, because you've done it completely solo. No one sticking up on your sick days or doing the lifting for you. So that's and I've seen that from.
No one does the lifting for Papa Swole, bro. No.
It's worse than that lifting, man. Do my lifting for me.
Yeah, right. I hear you. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll lift for you, and you make my food.
All right, that works, man.
All right, dude. Well, dude, thanks for your time, and we'll do this again real soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for episode 850, 500, 889, 859, 850, something like that. I think it's 859. I didn't have the number up here, but I think today is 858. Well, dude, thanks again. We'll talk soon, bro. Peace out.
Thank you, man.
Later, homie. All right, fam. So I'm wrapping it up with Casey. We just turned off. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I think the mic actually cut out for a split second there towards the end of the interview, but super cool guy. As you gathered, he's been we've been friends for a few years, and his company is amazing. It's an amazing company. It's an amazing community. It's an amazing culture over there. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Fitfoodfresh.com. I believe he said Fitfoodfreshtastic on Instagram. And you can hit him up and check out all the things they have to offer, especially if you're in the South Florida area. You can check out their high quality meal delivery service. Like he mentioned, the second highest rated on Yelp in the entire nation. So super cool. Obviously, they are giving what their people want, what their people need. And that's one thing that is lost on a lot of companies and a lot of people that are trying to do big things is they forget what they're doing it for. They forget what their end game is and what they're trying to accomplish. And if you're trying to make the best product, it doesn't have to be the least expensive. It doesn't have to be for everyone, because it's not going to be for everyone. And the Daily Swole in this podcast isn't for everyone. And, you know, my programs and my stuff isn't for everyone, and nothing will be for everyone. You know, you just can't make everyone happy. So another lesson you could take from today's episode and today's discussion is to focus on yourself, to always focus on self-growth. That's been very, very powerful for me. That's why I'm very big on yoga. I'm very big on meditation. I'm very big on self-education. And you all have that power, whether you're trying to do a new nutrition program, you're trying to do a overhaul on your fitness. You are responsible for your own well-being. You're responsible for what you are trying to get out of your own life. Taking responsibility is a huge, if not the biggest component of making those changes. You have to take responsibility. You have to take ownership of your results. You have to take ownership of your life. So you have that ability. Go do likewise, fam. I'll see you tomorrow for episode 800. And I believe it's 59. Today is 58. So we'll do 59 tomorrow of the Daily Mother Swole. Peace, McGee's fam. Deuce Magoose. Papa Swolio. Out. Oh. Later.